Hello, everybody. Welcome to another conversation with Jason and Justin. Today, we are joined by Steve Andreno. Steve, I am so excited to talk to you. Power Rangers was a big part of my life growing up, and Baboo was one of my favorite characters. But how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, happy to have you.
Absolutely. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Long Island, New York, but I have lived all over, including LA, Orange County, Las Vegas, Seattle, Tampa, and for the last 19 years, I've been in Houston, Texas.
Awesome. So, what got you into acting? Like, what kind of made you want to do this?
What got me into acting was I went away to engineering school for 1 year, and that's how I discovered acting. One of my friends kind of half dragged me down to the auditions for the play for the school for the fall semester. I'd never really acted before, but he's like, "Oh, come on down. It'll be fun." And then afterwards, we'll go to frat house, frat party, whatever. So I went down. Had fun with it. The next day, I went by the theater and just to check in. The director's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm glad to see you're back. Come on in. I wanted you to read again." And then I woke up the next morning to find out I got the lead in the play, and was in love with it ever since.
So, what was your journey to get the book Power Rangers?
Okay, so the school I went to was upstate New York, but when I moved out to California, I had been, working, doing regular stuff, and I finally decided I wanted to take some acting classes. Well, I lived in the city of Orange, which is next to Anaheim, like 10 minutes from Disney. But I didn't feel like driving an hour into LA after work, so I found acting classes in Santa Ana. And after doing that for about 6 months or so, one of the young women in the class with me came in one day and said she had just signed up with an extra agency. There are separate agencies that handle all the background actors for shows, So for the Power Rangers, any of the kids in the classroom or the hallways or the juice bar or whatever, she said they're doing this. This is the agency. They need high school age looking kids to do, play characters in this Power Ranger show. All right. I signed up with the agency on a Tuesday. They called me on Wednesday and said we need you Thursday and Friday. I said, okay. Then they called back a little while later and said, hey, they're asking for a particular look for the character, for the background characters that they need. Do you have like a kind of, I guess they said punk. That's what they called, the bad kids in the beginning of Power Rangers. The first few episodes, it wasn't just Bulk and Skull. There were a few other ones with them. And they always referred to them as punks. And I said, yeah, I've got stuff I can wear for that, my own costume. And they said, okay, just bring that on Thursday. All right. So I bring that. There's only one scene that I'm in that they filmed. If you remember, towards the very end of season 1, it was actually episode 59, the episode where Tommy's trying out for the football team. Okay, well, Bulk's trying out for the football team too. Well, there was the scene where Skull is trying to teach him how to be more agile, and he's got him wearing the tutu, running up and down the rows of seats in detention. Well, there were 3 kids in detention. I was the one in the middle. That was the only scene they wanted me in, though. They didn't want me in any of the other background scenes in the classroom or the hallway or whatever. So I basically sat around the rest of the day doing nothing. Then they approached me and said, wait a minute, Steve, how tall are you again? What's your shoe size? Come here, try this costume on. And it fit. They liked the way I looked in it and I moved in it. They asked me if I was okay with having, makeup on. I said, yeah, I've done, stage theater work before. I'm fine with makeup. I said, great. We'll give you a call Monday, tell you where and when we need you on Tuesday. So I'm like, cool. Now, mind you, I've not watched the show yet. I was 23 at the time, I guess. So I had a regular, 8 to 5 job. I, didn't think to pop a tape in the VCR. Yes, that's how old I am, kids. To watch it. So I was there Thursday. Friday, I was back as an extra, just as one of the regular kids in the school. They called me Monday and said, we need you to be at Zuma Beach at 8 o'clock Tuesday morning. They gave me the directions. I said, okay, great. So I get there Tuesday morning, spend a little over an hour in makeup in the makeup trailer so they can put the blue makeup on me. Go out, film the scene. And this is for the same episode. Squat and I dig up the dark power coins that Goldar then uses to turn the putties into dark versions of the Rangers. Mm-hmm. I remember having working them all out and then deciding not to use the Red Ranger because he wasn't up to snuff, I guess, compared to the rest. Well, the scene actually never made it to air. So I filmed it, never got to see it. But having not seen the show yet, all I know is I'm playing a monster. And let's be honest, Baboo looks scary. He's got the extra fangs. He's got the bat on his wrist. He's got the bone wings. Exactly. So he looks like he's part vampire. And that's kind of what they did in the original Sentai. So I'm playing it like a monster. So basically the direction I get is dig up the coin. We're going to zoom in on the treasure chest. And then when we pull back, just celebrate that you got it, that you found it. So I'm playing it all dark, evil. Yeah, we're going to. And they'll yell, cut. And they're like, Steve, you haven't watched the show yet, have you? And I'm like, no, sorry, I haven't had a chance. And they're like, not that kind of monster. I said, okay. So now you gave me I'm the flunky. I'm the one that does all the menial tasks for the head boss. So then I immediately thought of the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz and kind of, just nodding along to whatever the boss says. And that's how I played my version of Baboo for 2 years.
And you mentioned the costume. Does it usually take an hour to get into like the full Baboo? The
makeup took about an hour and 10 minutes when I first started. By the time it was done, they got it down to about 40, 45 minutes. As far as getting into the costume itself, when you get there, they have a black spandex suit that you wear from neck to ankle. And then you wear regular socks. When it's time to makeup first, when it's time to get in costume, the costume zipped up in the back and then Velcroed shut. It was all one piece except for the feet and the head. So someone would hold it up. I would step into it, put my arms into it, and they'd zip me up in the back, put the shoes on, and then I would hold my head, walk, onto set or whatever we're actually filming. And then right before it was time to shoot, one of the last commands they would give is, okay, heads up. And they would put the heads on all the monsters. And we would run the scene, and they would either yell, when they yelled cut, it was either back to one, which means we're just going to go right again and shoot it again. Let's try it again. Or if they were happy with what they shot, they'd yell cut. And then it was always pull the heads, which means take the heads off the monsters, except for me. Now, the reason for that is I had the open face, so I could breathe and I could see better than anybody else, but I also had the makeup, so they didn't want to take the head on and off and smear the makeup. So once my head was on, I'd be in it usually, maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more, depending what we had to shoot and when we were going to break for lunch and all. And then when they would take it off, I would little the sweat would just pour down because remember, Baboo's head is like this high. So, and it's 6 inches of just foam rubber, and then it's latex and paint on top of that. So it does not breathe. It just holds everything in.
Oh, that makes sense.
Do you do a lot of the fan conventions?
Not as many as I would like, certainly. I mean, if you had, somebody wanted me pretty much every weekend of the year, I'd do it. I've done more recently. I just did Ranger Stop and Pop in June. This past June, I did Ranger Stop Orlando a couple of years ago. I did the only Power Morphicon Express. That was back in 21. So I'll usually do like 1 or 2 a year. I've got representation now that's trying to get me out to do more of them. And like I said, I'm down to do it. I love meeting the fans. I love being able to tell the stories. And I love hearing how much of a part not just Power Rangers as a whole, but how much people remember and recognize the Baboo character and what he meant to them. So that to me is the fun part.
Yeah, I had the Baboo action figure, and the reason I brought that up is one of the things I've noticed at like conventions and stuff is it doesn't matter which incarnation of Power Rangers it is, they're always busy. Whoever is at the table is always got a line. One of our very first interview on this podcast was actually with Jason David Frank. So like I'm a fan forever. But so going back to Power Rangers, you started on season 2, it looks like mostly as Baboo. Yes. What was it like on set when the 3 original left?
I didn't work with them very much because Baboo wasn't a fighting monster. It wasn't Goldar where I was going to have to be with them. As the show progressed, they wrote the monsters in more and more in season 3. For me, it was just, it happened, Talking to them now at cons when I run into, Walter or Austin to understand why they left and what happened. Even talking to the replacement, talking to Steve or Johnny. I talked to Karen a little bit at Ranger Stop and Pop because Karen actually was one of the ones that ran Stop and Pop until they sold it this year and Steve Cardenas is a partner in it now. But I asked Karen, I said, you were the only one that left between season 3 and Turbo. I said, well, what happened? And she said, and she looked at me, she says, because of our bosses. And I went, oh, okay, I get it. And what happened that I was never affected by that because I worked, they call me in a couple days a month, usually 2 to 3 days to do a week's worth of in-studio shots. So in Bandora Palace or in the command center, whatever you want to call it, on the moon. We'd knock out 5 episodes in a couple days, and there'd be a day or 2 where they'd need me on location for a particular shot. I got paid. I was considered back then what's called a special extra. Now remember, I don't appear in the credits. I didn't do the voice. And there were other people that did Baboo physically in the costume for season 1 until they decided, hey, if we're bringing on Lord Zed and it's an open face, we just want one guy to do it from now on. So that's why I got the part. But I got paid daily, as a normal extra back, 32 years ago, got what was paid 40 over 8. So the couple days I was there as one of the kids in the classroom, it was $40 for 8 hours, but it's an 8-hour minimum. So you're in and out in 2 hours and they decide they don't need you anymore. Hey, you can show up and they decide we got too many, you, and you go home. You still get paid your full 8 hours, $40. As a special extra, because I had to be in a special costume and makeup, I got 75 over 8, which is okay. Again, 32 years ago, it's 9 something an hour. Really not bad. But on top of that, California state law is hours 9 and 10, even if it's the first day you're working, is time and a half. Hours 11 and 12 is double time. Anything over 12 hours is triple time. Now I worked a 14-hour day. I got paid $270 some odd dollars for one day. Looking back at it, that's at times I got paid more in one day than the main actors did.
Yeah, that's wild. I've heard that too. And especially with the merchandising and like I was there. I was a kid, so I know like how going into the store, there was no toys in the store at all. Like you couldn't walk anywhere without seeing Power Rangers. It's just wild to me that's the case.
When I first started, it took me about 6 months to find the original Baboo action figure. I only found it. I happened to I walked by a mom and pop toy store, and I'm like, just for the heck of it, let me head in and see. And they had one, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
So that was going to be one of my questions is because of the merchandise and the different action figures and stuff, do you get like just one copy sent to you as an actor? Like, hey, this is your character.
No.
That's crazy to me that they wouldn't do that.
Well, and I learned a lot about the merchandising because they liked me. I did a lot of other monster appearances, not just Baboo, when they needed promotional material. For example, the show was non-union, so they didn't film in LA, in Hollywood proper. They filmed in a town a little north of Hollywood named Valencia. If you're familiar with Southern California at all, anybody that's listening, if you know where Six Flags Magic Mountain amusement park is, the studio was literally 5 minutes from there. Mm-hmm. So because it was non-union, they would do other things. So in Valencia, the local police station would have a fall festival. They didn't want to call it a Halloween festival every year for DARE. If you remember DARE, to keep kids off drugs.
Very much so, yeah.
They decided for a couple of years running that they wanted a monster to show up on the roof of the police station. It was only a 2-story building. The kids are all down. They turn the parking lot into the fairground for rides and games and stuff. And all of a sudden they wanted a monster up there to start yelling down at the crowd. And then they have Power Ranger pop up, and they didn't actually have us fight. It was just more of a, you out of here now, or it's going down. And, it was threatening to beat me up. And then, oh my God, it's a Ranger. I'm not going to win this fight. And I run off. And that was it. So I'm in costume for 15 minutes. I get a full day's pay for that. Yay. That's great. Well,
it's a fun memory. That's cool.
Yeah. As far as the merchandising part, I got called in to be a monster to appear at the Fox Network board of directors meeting at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Yeah. This is when back when the day when slideshows were actually slides that you had to have a machine to project onto a screen and you'd click it. Mm-hmm. Well, they were doing the slideshow with all the charts and, how well the show was doing and how popular it was and how well merchandising was. They decided they wanted a monster to bring in the slide trays. And then the person that was presenting was, oh no, it's Fighting Flea. And he ducks behind the curtain, and a second later, out pops Red Ranger doing the same thing. You out of here now! So I throw up the slide trays and run out, just as a goof for everybody. And again, everybody's in there in suits and ties, and I'm walking in this rubber monster costume, feeling silly. 5 minutes, I'm in costume. I'm done. They fed me lunch, so I got room service lunch at the Beverly Hilton, and I was in costume for 5 minutes. So I'm like, well, I'm already here. So I snuck back in and I was hanging out in the back just to hear what was going on. I'm curious about everything. This is when the first I heard about them, hey, we're going to do the movie. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to be in the movie too. And we're going to shoot it in Australia. And I'm thinking, even better, I've always wanted to go to Australia. And we're introducing some new characters, so we're not going to have squat. So I was a little upset at that. But one thing that they mentioned from August of 1993, when the show debuted, through the end of December 94. Now, remember the show debuted August 28th, Power Rangers Day. So really for September, October, November, December, 4 months the first year, and then the next full year, merchandising grossed $1 billion.
Yeah.
And actors got nothing. Non-union show, when they all signed up, again, nobody knew how big this was going to be. Saban had tried for 5 years to sell it to the networks, and nobody wanted it. So he signed them to non-union contracts. They got a flat rate. This is how much you're getting for the year, broken down over the 52 weeks. This is what you'll get each week. I don't know the exact figure, not my business. I have an idea, but like I said, there's days that I think I made more than they did. Now, if the show had flopped and they filmed the first couple of weeks of episodes and Fox called up and said, hey, look, nobody's watching this, we're done, the actors would have got paid for the rest of the year and gone their merry way. Yeah. Of course, as we all know, the opposite happened. A couple of weeks in, it was the hottest thing ever. The day they were ready to wrap filming on season 1, they were finishing up because it was only supposed to be 40 episodes. Fox Network calls the studio and says, yeah, we need 10 more episodes ASAP. Because it was on every day, Monday to Friday after school. It wasn't a once a week like the later seasons were. So they took some time off to write some new episodes. The first day of filming the next 10 episodes, network called back and said, I'm sorry, did we say 10? We need 20. So it's like, so all of a sudden the actors are, hey, we got to bring you back. We're filming more stuff. They're not getting any more money for it because they signed a flat rate contract. And because it was non-union, there's no residuals, so they don't get any money when reruns are on or when somebody streams it, and there's no royalties. And if you remember, wasn't their faces on any of the toys. Some of them now are because, they had the heads that flip and whatever.
Right.
But back then it was just the costume. None of their faces appeared on any of the packaging. So they're like, it's not you. And realistically, anytime you watch the show, unless you see them taking off their helmet, it's not them under the helmet. It's the stunt people. And they know that, but they got called in to do so much promo work. They were getting flown all around the country to do talk shows and this and meet and greets back before Comic-Cons were big and they knew to charge money for stuff like that. They were being sent around to do meet and greets and give free autographs and not getting paid anything extra for it.
Yeah, I'm glad that they found a second life now with the convention circuit and so
absolutely.
forth. But my question, and kind of leads into it, is how did the extra footage from Japan play into it? Like, did you guys see that ahead of time? Like, this is going to play into the episode?
Not really, because don't forget, once season 2 started, there really wasn't a lot of, obviously the big monster battles, but because everything with Lord Zed was brand new, because Zed was never in the original Sentai. No, we never saw any. I never saw any of it. I don't know that the actors did. I never got to meet the voice actors either. I never met Dave Mallow. And we would film first, and then they would do ADR voiceover. Now, don't forget, though, I have an open face. You can see my mouth. So everybody else, it didn't matter if they fumbled the line, if they didn't say it right, if they decided they wanted to change the line after the fact. I had to deliver my lines as written in the script. And we got the scripts, what they're called sides. So when you get there for that day, okay, I'm ready to work, they hand you a little packet, which is just the pages from the big script that you're filming that day. And, we may be filming 10 scenes. Baboo may be in 2 of them. So I get my page. These are the 2 scenes I need to know. And I may not even have a line. I may just be in the background, or I may have 2 or 3 lines. I may have 10 or 12 lines, but I didn't know till day of, okay, this is what we're filming today. Here's your lines. And you just had to, sit there and memorize them real quick. And okay, we're ready to shoot. Now, sometimes the plan was to be ready to shoot at 7:00. Most of the time, that was pretty accurate. Sometimes they ran a little late. They couldn't get the lighting right, whatever. I had to be in makeup at 5:30 a.m. to be ready if we were going to shoot at 7. There's times that I didn't shoot till after lunch. I'm there at 5:30, 12 o'clock, we're breaking for lunch. 1 o'clock, we're going back. I maybe 2:30 before I get in front of the camera. I'm like, I've been here all day getting paid to do nothing. I get paid to eat breakfast, eat lunch, and sleep or read, hang out, whatever, till it's time to get in front of the camera.
Do you have a favorite episode or storyline Baboo was a part of?
One of my favorites, I have a couple. The wedding, of course, was the most fun to film. The reason that ended up coming about the way it did, they were behind in shooting the movie in Australia. So they started writing more and more stuff for the monsters, and they just kind of went way overboard with what they wanted to do for the wedding, and they just wanted to make it as fun as possible. Again, keep in mind, because this was something new, there was no blueprint, there was no formula, there was no it needs to be done this way, and this, we got to make sure that we do this. Because it was so new back then, the directors and the writers and everybody else was like, hey, let's try this, or let's film this way and see how it looks, if it's going to work or not. So there's so much footage that didn't get used. So with the wedding, for example, again, just having that many monsters on set in one area. You got 20 monsters. Nobody can see out of those costumes. And like I said, I've been in a few of them for other events, and you can't see out of them at all. having us dance and bumping into one another. So much so that we actually did one shot because it was the end of the day where, I've got the sides for it, where Squat and I are dancing next to each other, and Squat bumps into me and knocks me into the buffet table, and I knock the whole table down, and there's food everywhere dripping off of me. And one of the other monsters reaches down and grabs a piece off of me and goes, that's really good. I remember filming it, never made it to the episode. Now, that's not something that we could refilm over and over again. They're like, hey, it's the end of the day. Let's just do this one last shot. And if it works and it looks good, we'll put it in. If not, no big deal. So filming that was always fun. The other one I liked the best, just because it was so funny. I loved when they brought on Rito. Danny Stallcup playing Rito was absolutely phenomenal. As the suit actor, he was so good. And he has to deliver the lines so they know where to dub them in later. He was phenomenal as Rito. And the one episode where Squad and I steal Adam's lantern, he's got they've got all the lanterns hanging up, and now the fingers on the Baboo costume were about that long, so I had trouble picking things up. So now you want me to reach up, grab this, lift it up high enough to get it off of the hook that it's on. I couldn't do it. Squat couldn't even reach. I'm like struggling. I'm trying to, so I get up on my tiptoes. Are they going to see my feet in the shot? What? And I'm having trouble getting a grip on it to pull it off of there. So I don't think, when you look at it, you can see I didn't actually quite get it off. But then having us sit there later with all the lanterns around us, and Rito comes up and goes, what are you guys doing? Opening up a store or something? And it was just such a funny line that I don't remember if that one was in the script or if it's just something we came up with and said, hey, let's try this shot. Stuff like that. Just all the fun stuff that we did.
So I want to ask you about F Zone, because that was your first credited role. What was that experience like?
Okay, so I got F Zone as a result of doing Rangers and other things. I got called in to do extra work on a couple of other shows that's not going to be on the IMDb page. I did extra work on ER. Got to meet George Clooney. That was probably the highlight of my career. Did a couple of episodes of Days of Our Lives as a police officer in the police station. Was facing the crowd in Mighty Ducks 2, stuff like that. But I did get called in for F Zone, not knowing what it was. And this was an independent film, and it was just the whole storyline of it was main character is a doctor who decides that income tax is illegal and he shouldn't have to pay it. I played IRS agent number 1. I think it was one or two. And literally, the scene we shot is we pull up in front of his office. We're in the car. They shoot it from the back seat, and like so they're getting the reflections of the two agents in the rearview mirror. And I just kind of do one of these, look up at, without the glasses, look up at the mirror, side eye my partner, and then we get out of the car. That was it. I mean, there might have been one other scene I was in, but that's the only one I remember seeing in the movie. I don't know how I got a credited role for that, but they did. I mean, that was, again, I was still paid like an extra for it, but they at least gave me the credit. Without that, I would never have been able to actually create an IMDb page to put Baboo stuff on there.
That's interesting. But I'm not going to let you glaze over the whole George Clooney thing. How was that?
Okay, so all right. When I got called up by them, they said, "Okay, you've got two choices. You can either play an intern." I'm like, "Okay, so I'll be in the white jacket." Okay. Or the episode that they were filming was one where they had a bunch of the flying Elvi, the Elvis impersonators that would parachute in, and there's like a dozen of them. The storyline was one of them got sick or hurt or something. So they have everybody in costume, in the Elvis lookalike costumes to walking into the hospital to see if the guy's okay. And I'm like, no. I said, nobody sees my face as it is. I want to go in and have a chance to see me on TV. Because, I can say I did Baboo all I want, and I've got, the on-set pictures to prove it, but people aren't going to recognize me on the street and go, oh, that was you. So I wanted to play an intern. Okay, great. So the scene we're filming is there's a kid in a hospital bed in his room, and there's two interns, one at the foot of the bed, one at the head of the bed. George Clooney, the scene is George Clooney's going to walk in, delivers a couple of lines to the kid, and says, "Okay, guys, wheel him out." And me and the other intern wheel the bed out through the hospital door. We turn the corner. They yell, "Cut." Okay. Director says, "Let's practice moving the bed a couple of times. Make sure you guys are comfortable." Now, I'm at the head of the bed. The other intern's at the foot of the bed. George Clooney walks on the set when they're ready to film. First of all, nicest guy in the world. At this point, he is the star of the show. You know, originally it was Anthony Edwards, and then George Clooney blew up. Well, he came out, and everybody that was there as an extra, even if they weren't in the scene, you know, they all huddle behind the camera. They want to see what's going on. Part of the reason to be an extra is to be on a set to see how everything works. George Clooney came out, shook everybody's hand, walked up to every single extra that was there. "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Hey, George Clooney, what's your name?" Said hi to everybody. Joking around with everybody. Yes, that really was me on The Facts of Life, 4 years ago, because he played the handyman at Miss Garrett's shop on the last season or two. He's joking around. The director's like, "Hey, George, no, come on, we got to film the scene now. Let's go." And he's like, "All right." He asked the guy at the foot of the bed, he's standing next to, "Hey, what's your name?" "I don't remember. I'm just going to say Brian." He says, "Okay, Brian." He delivers the scene, delivers the lines, says, "Okay, Brian, wheel him out." So he uses the guy's name, and we wheel the bed out. Okay, that was cool. Watching the episode when it aired, you can see about this much of my shoulder at the head of the bed. That's it. And I'm just like, oh, man. I'm watching the episode. There's one scene where I'm in the background, like two of the doctors are talking in the hallway, and like 20 feet down, I'm pushing a cart with some stuff on it. And I only know it's me because I know what I filmed. And I'm looking at it going, "Yep, can't see me. Can't tell anybody, oh, look, I'm on this episode." No, couldn't see me.
It's a dope story, though.
Now, the one thing I did do as an extra that I got real screen time, if you will, was a movie called Panthers, which was about the Black Panther movement during the early 70s. The Black Panthers, to raise money, sold what they called the Red Books. It was little red books about, yay big, that had like quotes in the philosophy of Mao Zedong. And they sold those for $1. That's what they used to raise money to arm themselves. So there's a scene where they're selling them on campus, supposed to be Berkeley. Well, we filmed it at UCLA. And they're selling the books. And they need extras coming up to buy the books. And then another character walks on screen and they start talking. For whatever reason, the way they blocked it, and they filmed it like 3 or 4 times, and this is the way they wanted it. I walk into frame to hand him the $1 and take the book as the guy that walks up starts delivering his line. So it's literally, it's a side view, but it's me from like here on screen. And this was movie. So on a movie screen, I'm like, finally, I can see myself. I know that's me. I can tell people that's what I did, other than Baboo. But of course, everybody loves the fact that I did Baboo.
So awesome. My last question for you is, what is Power Rangers Broken Gods and Master Force, and where can I find it?
Unfortunately, you can't.
Oh, that's
all right. So this was a fan project where I talked to one of the main voices behind it. We actually came up with the idea of my character. He wanted me to be somehow related to Baboo. And we came up with the idea together of the character Bonobo, the Demon King, being the offspring of Baboo and Scorpina, which is why the suit looks like it does. It's got a little bit of the blue of the Baboo, but it's got the green. I flew out to Springfield, Missouri, to film what you see the clips of in that trailer. There's a lot more that we filmed. Unfortunately, due to fallout between some of the creative team, that footage is never going to see the light. It's never going to go anywhere. They're still fighting over who really should have control of it. So that, unfortunately, is, the equivalent of vaporware. I loved doing it. That was supposed to be like a short teaser film, and the plan was to actually do like a 10 or 20 episode series on it. They had written a couple of episodes, but yeah, just internal issues is going to keep anybody from seeing that, unfortunately.
Sure.
Well, I hope to see more of you in the future on screen in some capacity, and I hope that you make your way through Columbus at some point to one of these conventions.
Looking forward to it. What I'll say to anybody that watches this, if you want me to come out to whatever your local convention is, reach out directly to whoever puts on the convention. Most of the conventions have a website. You can click on guests. You can contact us. They usually are open to requests. The more people that can request a particular actor, the more likely they are to bring him out. I do have, like I said, representation now. It is the Morphin Agency is who represents me to help get me out to conventions. I said I've mostly done ones here in the Houston area where I'm from, and then a couple of scattered where, for anybody that's going to Power Morphicon next year, that we're working on that. I can't say for sure I'm going to be there, but I can say it's being worked on, and that is the one I really want to get to. Other than that, like I said, I'll go anywhere. I just to meet the fans, just to have fun.
I need to go to Power Morphicon. Like, that needs to be a goal on my list the next year. But where can everybody find you online?
Okay, so my Facebook is just Steve Andreno, as it's spelled right there on your screen. You'll know it's me because my picture is actually a Baboo Pog. It's a animated picture of Baboo, so if you're not careful, you end up with my father's Facebook, which is Steven Andreno, and he's not going to be as much fun as I am. As far as Threads and Blue Sky and X and Instagram, they're all at Baboo Real, REAL, as in
awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff, and we'll catch you later.